You know, when you watch a really good magic trick, um, your eyes are just naturally glued to the shiny coin, right?
Yeah, or the dramatic flourish of the cape or whatever.
Exactly. I mean, it is completely designed that way. The magician wants you looking at the spectacle on the surface so that you do not notice the sleight of hand happening right in front of you.
Right, because misdirection is the entire engine of the act. You're reacting to the presentation, and you're completely blind to the actual mechanics, making it work behind the scenes.
Yeah, and looking at our source material today, which is the Friday, June 5th, 2026 edition of the Daily Tech Reader,
Yeah.
I feel like we're watching this massive global magic trick.
Definitely, it really feels that way.
Because on the surface, you have these booming job numbers and,
Yeah.
historic tech IPOs, but the mechanics underneath.
Yeah.
The hidden structural shifts happening while we're all distracted by the shiny coin.
That is where the real story is.
Yeah. So welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to cut through that massive wall of daily news to uncover those hidden shifts for you. We're going to look at how global conflicts are secretly steering your wallet, the stark AI revolution that's quietly replacing traditional tech jobs, and the shifting and honestly sometimes alarming definitions of government transparency.
It's a massive stack of information to synthesize. But the patterns connecting these seemingly isolated events, they become incredibly obvious once you know where to look.
Right. And just a quick reminder for you listening, this is a deep dive into our source material. And because today's stack touches on some incredibly polarized political topics, things like January 6th, border funding, redistricting, I want to state right up front, we do not take sides.
No, not at all.
Our goal here is strictly to impartially report the facts contained in the source material and to just convey the ideas without endorsing any political viewpoints. We're here to understand the mechanics of the trick, not to, argue the politics of the magician.
Yeah, I mean, the facts are complex enough without adding spin, right? Our job is just to lay out what the reporting actually says.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the economy, because that is the shiny coin right in front of all of us affecting your wallet directly.
Yep, the big ones.
So the May jobs report just dropped, and on paper, it's an absolute showstopper.
Yeah.
172,000 jobs added. That's roughly double what forecasters expected.
Which is huge.
Right. And unemployment is holding remarkably steady at 4.3%. You read that headline and you probably think, wow, great, the economy is roaring, but the reality for your household budget probably feels very different.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like the economy right now is like running on a treadmill turned up to the max. We're adding jobs, our legs are moving incredibly fast, but household budgets are actually sliding backward.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, you really have to look at the relationship between wage growth and inflation. So wages grew at 3.4% year over year.
Okay, which sounds good.
It sounds positive, yeah, until you read further down in the data and realize that inflation has hit a 3-year high.
Wait, really? But why the sudden spike? Because the numbers have been cooling for a while, haven't they?
They have, but it really comes down to the ongoing war with Iran. That conflict is severely squeezing global energy supplies. And, I mean, everything requires energy to move, to manufacture, to deliver.
Right, shipping costs go up.
Exactly. When energy gets expensive, literally everything gets expensive. So your paycheck might be slightly larger, but its purchasing power is significantly diminished. And economists are pointing out this fascinating illusion here.
What's the illusion?
Consumer spending is being artificially propped up right now by tax refund spending, specifically stemming from the Trump 2025 tax cuts.
Oh, I see. So the tax refunds are basically acting as a painkiller for an underlying economic injury?
Yeah, that is a great way to put it. It provides this temporary lift that masks the deeper structural pressures on households. And the source actually mentions that Goldman Sachs estimates the Iran war is indirectly costing the U.S. economy about 10,000 jobs per month.
Wow, 10,000 a month?
Yeah, but the headline job number completely hides that hemorrhage. And because of this inflation pressure, a Federal Reserve rate cut before the fall is now considered highly unlikely.
Man, so the macroeconomic data is basically fighting itself. But where this divergence gets really telling is when you look at the micro-level data inside the tech sector.
Oh, for sure.
Because overall tech headcount is flat. Companies aren't doing massive hiring sprees, but they aren't doing massive layoffs either. But underneath that flat line, there's a tectonic shift. Technology companies are actively changing what they need humans to do.
Yeah, they are leveraging AI productivity gains to manage their headcount incredibly cautiously. And this means a massive split in who gets hired. So traditional roles like software engineering, quality assurance, technical support,
Yeah.
those are actually contracting right now.
Contracting.
Yeah. Meanwhile, AI-specific roles at major labs and enterprise companies are surging at double-digit rates.
Okay, I understand that AI is changing things, but how does that actually result in fewer software engineers? Like, don't you still need people to build the products?
Well, you do, but the ratio has fundamentally changed. Think about how software used to be written, right? You needed an army of junior engineers to write functional boilerplate code.
Yeah, just basic typing and coding.
Exactly. And QA testers to run endless automated tests to find bugs. Today, an AI model can do both of those things in seconds.
Wow.
So a company doesn't need a team of 20 junior coders anymore. They need maybe 3 senior engineers who understand how to expertly prompt and manage the AI's output. The human requirement in traditional coding spaces is simply shrinking.
That paints a pretty cautious, almost defensive picture of the tech world. But here's my question. If tech is so cautious about managing human capital, why are a million retail investors scrambling for just 1,500 available spots in the SpaceX IPO?
Oh, the SpaceX IPO.
Yeah. The roadshow launches Monday, they hit the NASDAQ on June 12th, and the projected valuation is a record-breaking $1.75 trillion. I mean, that does not sound cautious to me.
No, it doesn't. But that really highlights the stark divide right now between hardware or frontier tech and traditional software. Investors are looking at where the physical infrastructure of the future is being built.
Okay.
SpaceX isn't just writing code, right? They're launching physical assets, satellites, rockets, heavy machinery.
You can't prompt a rocket into space.
Exactly. The physical frontier is exploding with capital because you can't build a rocket with just an AI prompt. But the digital frontier, the companies that purely write software, they are the ones consolidating their human workforce.
So it's the physical versus the digital. Which brings us to the ultimate digital frontier, and arguably the most secretive, which is the Pentagon.
Yes.
Because this is where the transparency debate is getting incredibly heated. According to the reporting, the Pentagon just banned journalists from its press office. Like, they literally designated the press area a space reporters have used for years as a classified space.
And to make it even more contentious, the acting Pentagon press secretary defended this move by calling the Defense Department the most transparent in history.
Which is quite a claim.
Yeah, and press freedom organizations immediately disputed that characterization.
Right. So what does this all mean? We have the Pentagon locking its doors to journalists to protect classified spaces while simultaneously facing bipartisan outrage for giving classified access to a newly hired employee, Elias Irizarry, who is a convicted January 6th rioter. He was hired this week in an office handling highly classified military info. The reporting notes this has sparked immediate calls to review security clearance protocols. I mean, I am genuinely struggling to understand how a convicted rioter gets classified access while credentialed journalists get locked out of a press room.
It creates a massive perceived vacuum of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And cybersecurity and AI policy researchers note that historically, reduced Pentagon media access correlates directly with reduced public oversight for fast-growing technologies.
Which is exactly what AI is.
Right. Right now, the military's AI and autonomous systems portfolio is expanding at a breakneck pace. If reporters cannot even get into the press office to ask basic questions, how can the public understand what autonomous weapons are being developed?
It just becomes the ultimate black box.
Okay.
And this theme of oversight, you know, the push and pull of who gets to look inside the box and who controls the levers, that is defining Washington right now. Take the appropriations cycle. Congress just closed out fiscal year 2026 funding, finally, after a 43-day shutdown last fall and a partial one earlier this year.
Yeah, it's been a mess.
To say the least. The Senate passed a $70 billion ICE and Border Patrol funding bill through the end of the Trump administration. It passed 52-47, strictly on party lines, with Senator Lisa Murkowski as the sole Republican voting no.
And embedded in that bill is a controversial $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund.
Okay, wait, stop right there, because anti-weaponization funds sounds like military jargon, but in this context, it's something entirely different, right?
Yeah, it is purely a political and financial lever. Lawmakers designated that $1.8 billion specifically to restrict or defund what they consider politically motivated investigations by the Department of Justice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It is Congress using the power of the purse to try and dictate DOJ priorities. But the Justice Department has explicitly stated they will not move forward with it or utilize that framework.
So they're just ignoring it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So you have the legislative branch allocating a massive fund, and the executive branch department saying, we refuse to use it. It is a profound friction point in institutional power.
Yeah, and we saw that same friction with the Director of National Intelligence nomination. President Trump nominated Bill Polt for acting DNI, but then reversed course.
Right.
He backed down after intense pushback from both Republican and Democratic members of the Senate Intelligence Committee. The source notes they raised concerns about Polt's lack of an intelligence background.
And that's the Oversight Committee, flexing its muscle, requiring domain expertise for a critical intelligence role. And the executive branch yielded. That is the accountability mechanism functioning as designed.
Right.
But then you look at the judicial branch weighing in on electoral oversight. The Supreme Court just cleared Alabama to use its contested congressional map for the 2026 midterms.
Right, and that overrides a three-judge lower court panel's findings from late May regarding the map's impact on Black voters. Voting rights advocates in the source material are warning this sets a massive precedent heading into the midterms.
It really does.
So from the Pentagon's AI black box to the DOJ to the Supreme Court, the rules of who gets to see what and who gets to decide the boundaries are being aggressively rewritten.
It is a systemic rebalancing of power across all three branches of government happening simultaneously.
Yeah. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If domestic politics is an institutional tug-of-war, international politics right now is just a powder keg. We talked about the economic impact of the Iran war earlier, but militarily, peace talks between Washington and Tehran are hanging by a thread.
Completely.
The U.S. and Iran are still exchanging fire despite the nominal ceasefire framework brokered back in April. Tehran is warning they haven't even deployed their full military power yet, and they're preparing for direct confrontation.
And simultaneously, we are seeing major escalations in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Ukrainian missiles hit St. Petersburg overnight.
Which is huge.
Yeah, that represents one of the deepest penetrations of Russian territory since the war began.
But why strike St. Petersburg now? Like, is it purely retaliatory?
Well, analysts believe Kyiv is intentionally targeting symbolic Russian cities to build crucial leverage. If you want to force peace negotiations, you have to prove you can inflict pain deep inside your opponent's borders. It is a desperate but calculated move.
Man, it is like Congress and the White House are driving the same car but physically fighting over the steering wheel when it comes to responding to that conflict.
Yeah, no kidding.
The House just passed a bipartisan Ukraine aid bill that includes new sanctions on Russia. And the source notes this clashes directly with the Trump administration's much more cautious foreign policy approach to that specific region.
Right.
I mean, it is incredibly rare to see Congress agree on anything right now, as we saw with the party line ICE vote. But they found cross-party agreement on this to send a direct signal to the White House.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is the sheer juxtaposition of global events.
How so?
Well, you have these brutal geopolitical levers being pulled, missiles striking deep into sovereign territory, fleets mobilizing, economic sanctions being deployed, and yet, at this exact same moment, the world is preparing to engage in a massive exercise of shared global unity.
Oh, the World Cup.
Yes. The 2026 FIFA World Cup opens June 11th at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles.
It is projected to be the most watched sporting event in human history. FIFA is expecting a global audience approaching 6 billion viewers.
6 billion. That's just wild.
I know, and host cities, places like Dallas, LA, New York, and Miami, are reporting hotel bookings 40 to 60% above their seasonal norms. They initially estimated a $5 billion economic impact, but with hospitality data like this, analysts are saying that figure might be wildly conservative.
Yeah, think about the logistical reality of that for a second. While diplomats are failing to hold ceasefires together in the Middle East, logistical teams across North America are perfectly synchronizing fan zones, security infrastructure, and transportation for millions of international tourists.
It's incredible.
It really underscores what coordinated global effort looks like when the goal is celebration rather than destruction.
But, you know, all those millions of tourists flying in this week are stepping into an American physical landscape that is, quite frankly, extreme right now. Let's look at the weather.
Oh, yeah.
If you are heading to the Gulf Coast, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, you are walking into a peak heat dome this weekend. Forecasters say it will reach maximum intensity before a much-needed 10 to 15-degree drop early next week.
And if you look at the Central Plains, Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, they are gripping with an intensifying exceptional drought. There is absolutely no significant rain in the 14-day forecast.
Wow, 2 weeks of nothing.
Nothing. And this is severely impacting winter wheat farmers who are already facing reduced yields and ranchers dealing with deteriorating pastures. It is a slow-moving agricultural crisis.
But then, almost paradoxically, the Atlantic hurricane season is completely asleep. We are on day 5, and it is dead quiet.
Yeah, it's strange.
The source mentions an El Niño pattern is creating strong wind shear that is suppressing storm development. How does wind shear actually stop a massive hurricane from forming?
Well, think of a developing hurricane like a vertical chimney of rising warm air.
Okay.
It needs to be stacked perfectly straight to draw moisture up from the ocean and build power.
Okay.
Wind shear is essentially crosswinds at different altitudes. It acts like a ceiling fan blowing across the top of that chimney.
Oh, so it just knocks it over.
Exactly. It chops off the rising column of air and tears the storm apart before it can organize. That aligns perfectly with NOAA's forecast for a below-normal season through at least midsummer.
So, nature is using wind shear as a blunt force to stop storms. But local communities are dealing with some blunt force policy issues of their own, like this massive movement to ban screens in schools.
Yeah. There is a growing wave of state and district-level school screen bans designed to get smartphones out of the classroom to improve focus.
Yeah.
But students with disabilities are raising a massive red flag.
Right.
They fear their medically necessary devices are going to get swept up in these broad bans because the policies lack specific carve-outs for them.
You know, I was reading through this section and it hit me. In our rush to get smartphones out of classrooms, are lawmakers completely forgetting that a tablet might literally be the only way a nonverbal disabled student can speak or participate?
It is a classic example of systemic blind spots.
Yeah.
When you draft policies with a hammer instead of a scalpel, the collateral damage is very real.
Yeah, totally.
You're trying to solve one specific problem, like classroom distraction, but you create profound harm elsewhere because you aren't considering the entire ecosystem. It is the same kind of blind spot as failing to plan for the long-term economic impacts of that exceptional drought we just talked about.
Yeah, everything is connected. Even our sense of nostalgia is booming right now as a sort of cultural anchor against all this volatility.
Oh, definitely.
Like, the historic Big Boy steam locomotive is heading east on its America 250 tour and drawing absolute record crowds for rail heritage events. The Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool just reopened after a weeks-long resurfacing and repainting project right in time for the summer tourists. And on June 19th, the Obama Presidential Center officially opens on Chicago's South Side. They are expecting 1 million visitors in its first year. People just seem to be flocking to these physical, tangible monuments.
It speaks to a desire for permanence in a world that feels incredibly volatile. I mean, a steam locomotive from a bygone industrial era or a new presidential library. These physical spaces offer a shared cultural touchstone that you can actually touch, unlike, a digital algorithm.
And as long as we're talking about what draws crowds, we have to talk about the pure escapism of American sports right now. Because alongside the World Cup preparations, our domestic leagues are delivering insane drama.
Oh man, they really are.
Game 2 of the NBA Finals is tonight in San Antonio. The Spurs are facing what analysts call a must-win at home against the Knicks, who are riding an unbelievable 13-game playoff winning streak. The Spurs are 6.5-point favorites. Jalen Brunson is somehow playing through knee and ankle injuries, and everyone is waiting to see if Victor Wembanyama can bounce back from shooting a dismal 6 for 21 in Game 1.
The resilience on display is just remarkable. And look at the NHL Stanley Cup Final. The Carolina Hurricanes were down 2-0 to the Golden Knights, and Seth Jarvis hits an overtime game winner to completely even the series. All that momentum shifts in a single split second of ice time.
Yeah. And then you have the devastating heartbreak. In Major League Baseball, Aaron Judge is officially out indefinitely with a stress fracture.
That's rough.
That is a massive blow to the Yankees' title hopes right in the middle of a brutally tight AL East division race. But on the flip side of individual dominance, in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark just tied her own league record as the Indiana Fever beat Angel Reese and the Atlanta Dream. She is keeping that team highly competitive and pushing past all the recent media drama.
And this raises an important question, I think. When you look at these updates, it isn't just about the box scores. It is about how fragile human athletes are, like Brunson playing on bad knees or Judge sidelined by a bone fracture, versus the mythic, almost gravity-defying status they hold in our culture.
Yeah, they're like superheroes to people.
Exactly. Players like Wembanyama or Clark, they pull in massive audiences that wouldn't normally watch a basketball game. They generate storylines that dominate the daily news cycle. They become the ultimate shiny coin in the magic trick we talked about at the very beginning of our conversation.
They absolutely do. We are constantly oscillating between being mesmerized by the spectacle, the sports, the IPOs, the political theater, and trying to understand the hidden mechanics operating underneath it all.
Right. And to leave you with one final, perhaps unsettling thought to mull over, let's connect the dots between our very first story and our second.
Okay.
In the tech sector, we saw that AI is rapidly replacing the human workers who traditionally write our software. At the exact same time, the Pentagon is actively classifying the physical spaces where it manages its explosive military AI growth.
Oh, wow. I see where you're going with this.
Right. What happens in 10 years when the most critical language of the 21st century computer code is almost entirely written by machines, and the government oversight of those machines is permanently hidden behind classified doors?
That's, yeah. Yeah.
Will future citizens even possess the technical vocabulary to demand transparency, or will the black box simply become a permanent fixture of our society?
Wow. That is a truly chilling thought. If you no longer understand how the magic trick is done and the magician permanently locks the door to the theater, well, you eventually just have to accept the illusion as reality. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Remember to keep questioning what you read, always look for the hidden connections in your own daily news stack, and do not let the spectacle distract you from the sleight of hand. We will see you next time.